Okay. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this Saturday morning. I have a very special guest here with me today, Kyle Wilson, who is a great friend and mentor to me, and I'm very happy to have him here with me today. He has done phenomenal things for me over the past year, and just the fact that he's taken the time on this Saturday morning to join us and for me to share some of his great wisdom is just an honor to me. So thank you, Kyle, for joining us.
Amy, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I just want to give you guys a little bit of background about Kyle, just to share a little bit about some of his accomplishments. He was an 18-year business partner with Jim Rohn. So many of you already know who Jim Rohn was, but I have to admit I was not very well-versed in the personal development world about a year and a half ago. And I had heard of Jim Rohn before, but heard plenty of his quotes. I didn't really associate the two things together. And since I have met Kyle, my world has changed because I've learned so much about how our thoughts influence our mind and influence our energy, our emotions, and even our life. And so Kyle, he worked with Jim Rohn for 18 years and made him this international phenomenon, as well as then even just through his interactions, he knows so many other great names in personal development, Zig Ziglar, Darren Hardy, and now Kyle has new projects going on, including his infamous Inner Circle, which I am now a part of, and he just recently this year launched his podcast, Successful Habits of Super Achievers, which many of you have heard of. If not, you need to subscribe to it. It has phenomenal people who give great wisdom. And one thing that I have learned, and I'm going to share, have turned some stuff over to Kyle in a second, but one thing I've learned is being around high achieving people is they've made tons of mistakes and have learned so many lessons. They're always willing to share them. And so that's why we have Kyle here today to share not only some information about marketing, but share some of the things that have led him to all of his great successes. So first I'd like to share, so Kyle, can you tell us what makes your Inner Circle so special, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and thank you, Amy. And yeah, I was looking down because I wanted to share this on my Facebook page. I know we're sharing it on my business page, but I wanted to make it available. So so didn't mean to act distracted there. So I started my Inner Circle 4 or 5 years ago, and I really thought, Jim Rohn talked about the people you spend the most time with. And I'd gone on a ski trip with my friends Darren Hardy, John Assaraf, Eric Berman, and Stephen Cox. And we were at John Assaraf's place in Colorado, Telluride. And they kept having this little clique among themselves because they were all part of a little private mastermind in San Diego. And I live in Dallas. And it was just really great. And I kept asking questions. They said, dude, just go back to Dallas and start one. I said, I felt like I'm in the desert. And so I came back and I invited Ron White, who I was Ron's agent. He's the 2-time memory champion. And for those that don't know, I was the founder of Jim Rohn International in 1993. I was a seminar promoter before that. And I would hire Jim. And then I made Jim an offer he couldn't refuse, got the exclusive marketing rights, took him from 20 speaking dates to 110 that first year, doubled his fee, and started creating products. And then I started Your Success Store, which allowed me to also then take Brian Tracy and Les Brown and Mark Victor Hansen. And by the way, all 3 of those are on my new podcast I just launched. And Dennis, Dennis Waitley, if I didn't mention Dennis, and several others. And but I sold everything in late 2007 and retired. And when I came back out 4 or 5 years later, I didn't have the million+ list. I didn't have the intellectual property. And so I really had a clean slate. I was starting at zero and got to decide what do I want to do. And to me, it began, first of all, just being around great people. And so I invited Ron White, who I mentioned I'd been his agent. I invited my good friend Robert Helms of the Real Estate Guys. And I just started going through this invitation list. And we I started in Dallas, started in Los Angeles, had 12 people in each one. And then I just had a lot of demand to start another one. So I started a second one, and then now 3-time Grammy winner Seth Mosley, who I just had on my podcast, and Colonel Tim Cole, 31-year Colonel in the Marines. And, just this amazing group of people started joining that. And eventually people said, hey, I'd like to get to know Tim and Seth and some of these people better. And they want to get to know Ron and Robert. And so we combined them all. And, we have about 100 members nationwide, and they're busy people. One guy has 400 employees, and I mean, they're busy. So they might make 1 or 2 dates a year. I do 6 in Dallas, 6 in LA, 6 in Philadelphia. And, we have, a who's who of, talented people, professionals, speakers, authors, athletes, musicians, but primarily entrepreneurs. And, I always say I is an entrepreneur. That's what I am. I did Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneur Soul with Mark and Jack in 1995. Mark said, which chicken soup book do you want to do? I was promoting Mark a lot, and Mark's part of the new podcast too. And I said, listen, entrepreneur, that's where my passion is. And so the group's primarily entrepreneurs that do all kinds of different business. But the number one trait is not the success, although we have a huge amount of success. The number one trait is the quality of people, just really good people. And about the time you came in, Mike Muni came in. Mike's the founder of Axe Software. And Mike said, Kyle, I have been invited to all these things, and yours is so different. It's just such a high caliber of people. I found home. And I hear that all the time. And, the value propositions, you get to hang out with some amazing people and you get to pick their brain. And since the virus, we've been doing virtual calls, and we just have these world-class experts sharing, things that are very pertinent right now, whether it's the SBA loans, whether it's Thomas Black, who oversees 14 Baylor emergency hospitals, talking about it from a doctor's point of view, attorneys, business owners, corporate, obviously a lot of real estate syndicators. So it's a great group. And then we have a private Facebook group, and we have a lot of cool things we do with it. So that's a long-winded answer, but I really started it for me. I still do it for me. I look forward to each event. It's not something I've tried to turn into a scalable thing. The price is, I way undercharge, people tell me, but that's not why I do it. I do it to have a specific group of people that have an opportunity to get together. I feel like I get to host the party for people. And a lot of people, because they're Jim Rohn fans, will join actually to learn from me, the marketing side. And the benefit they get that they did not see coming is this incredible community of people that they then get to meet and learn from.
Yeah, I have to say, I had never even experienced a mastermind before, and I came from the W-2 world. You get a job, you go to school, all those things, and switching over to an entrepreneur world in the past year and a half was a big shift in my lifestyle. So a lot of people who I knew in my previous lifestyle, they aren't exposed to what I'm doing now. And many people didn't even, I didn't know what a mastermind was, other than I know what the word means, but to what it truly means to be in a mastermind of people who are in different walks of life, but who all have the same similar mindset of looking to make an impact and leading through love and generosity. And that's one thing when you invited me to present at your mastermind April of last year, I had no idea what to expect. And I sat through it most of the day and I presented at the end, but I was blown away by what, Kyle, you do. And you interview all, various people in your inner circle, and you allow them to share their wisdom. The way that you draw it out of them, it allows them to shine, it allows them to be vulnerable, and they're surrounded by a community where there's no judgment. And that's a rare thing to find. I know coming from the medical world, it's very cutthroat. it is competition. It's a scarcity mindset where you're trying to get people away from someone else, and to be introduced to your world where it's about abundance. And the first thing is, how can we help you, was incredible. And just recently, one of my friends I introduced to your inner circle, she was supposed to attend the In Life event in Dallas, but she did the virtual session that we did instead, one of the calls, and she was blown away by it. And as soon as everything settles, I know that she's probably going to reach out to you to become a member. But it was the interactions and the sharing that really drew me to your inner circles. And what people also don't know is, one thing that's special about yours is, because you have it in different locations,
Right.
You have people of different walks of life, different values, different interests. So I've been to all three coasts, three areas of the U.S. to see, and each one, as you've mentioned, is a mixture of people, and each one is just as beautiful. And it's the networking. So can you just share with us a little bit about kind of the structure of how you do inner circle? Because I know many people who are listening that are in my world haven't been a part of this, and I think they would just like to hear a little bit more detail of what really happens.
Great question. We call it a mastermind, and a mastermind, a lot of people think in terms of Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich talked about 12 people that come together, and they each bring something different. That's not really that's not what my mastermind is. I know a lot of people are part of masterminds, and that's what it is. That's missing some components. It's amazing, but it's missing some things. I always say, whatever you do, you have to build it off your own secret sauce. And part of my secret sauce is I'm a promoter. I'm a marketer. I attract some pretty cool people. So we've had Phil Collin of Def Leppard show up, right? They've sold 100 million albums. He spent the day with us. Him and his wife, and Debbie Cook, who also, was with the band Delta Deep and another thing Phil does. And, we've been backstage so many times now at Def Leppard concerts, right? Because whether it's Dallas or LA, Phil's part of the family. Mark Victor Hansen's and his wife, Crystal, been to Dallas. He hosted one in LA. Lisa Haisha, her husband's the creator of The Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men. Lee Aronson's hosted 2 at her house. And I could go on and on. So that's kind of part of my secret sauce. I have all these great relationships because I'm a promoter that's filled up big rooms. So in addition to being able to pick other people's brains like a mastermind, you also have access to some pretty amazing people. And you get access to some people that think big, and they take you outside of your normal patterns. So I've built it kind of on my own little thing that, is my strength, right? I've not tried to copy what someone else's is. I'm not a trainer. Some people are trainers and they charge a ton of money, come in, they're going to train you for 2 days. Mine is much different. Mine's a community that we created of amazing people. As you said, very eclectic, very diverse. And the common ground is, there is an application. I have to interview everyone before they get involved. And so they have to kind of leave their ego at the door and come in and really want to learn. I know some people that want to come and give, but they don't want to learn, right? And so I want people that are there taking notes, but also that not everyone has to give. I feel like there's 3 levels of people that are members that I never talk about and you've never heard, and most people don't even know my thought process behind it, but I'll go ahead and share. So one level are these iconic people. You look at a Robert Helms, he comes in, he's doing what a lot of people want to do. He's got the #1 real estate podcast. He's doing huge events. He has, he's at the top of the game of the syndication world, the biggest development release. So he's doing what a lot of people want to do. The next level is the second level are people that they're in the game, right? They're not there where Robert is, but they have their own tribe, their own audience. They're already doing well. We have a lot of successful podcasts, a lot of people doing amazing things, but they still look to Robert as a mentor, but they have their own tribe of people. And then the third group are people that aren't necessarily there to do either one, but they're running their business. They get so much, information and relationships through, the A and the B. But what it gives the A and the B to as well is the audience. So I introduce, just like with you, you've come in, Amy, and you have now an audience of people, right, that really are digging what you're sharing. And so, that's why it's a win for someone like Robert. He benefits from the group, but he also has an audience of people that are now wanting to engage him. So it's this little kind of eclectic group. And then I have some of those A guys who they end up getting me. I'm mentoring them, on the side, or helping them with their own marketing projects. So it's just this culture of everyone wins. And but it begins with community. It begins with people having a great heart. And I will just say, my observation is most people, their business, over the next 18 months will almost double, if not more, and the relationships continue to grow. And it's just been very organic. I'd say 90% of our new members have been referred. I don't go out and promote this. They're referred, and it's a conversation. And that's the way you kind of want every business. I talk about, when I teach on marketing, I talk about the power of building a business that compounds over time. And there's a whole formula of how you create products and services and companies that will compound.
Yeah, I've noticed that because you present on some of your marketing tips and tools that you use, and even kind of the values you have that you have built for the inner circle. I can see those values in your marketing. When I don't know if you can briefly touch on the wheel a little bit and just kind of talk to people about something, a little, as much as you can, just a little bit about how you're not looking just to take advantage of people. You're trying to get them in, and then you provide, options for them. If you don't mind speaking to that a little bit, because it just shows your type of mindset of this community of good people, even in your marketing tools. So.
Well, yeah, thank you. I'm a big believer in put good stuff out and then attract the right people. So, my background's, I'm a marketer, filled up huge rooms, built lists, branding, marketing, publisher, billions of books. So I just train from where I come from, and I do coach a lot of people. And when you're sharing on a blog or sharing on a podcast or sharing on social media, that's free. And that's cool. You want it to reach as many people as possible. And then occasionally you give stuff that people can raise their hand to. Like I have one coming up. It's called Memory and Marketing. It's with me and Ron White. It's 2 solid days. It's irresistible. We just give so much value. Really everything I know. I don't hold anything back on marketing. He doesn't hold anything back on memory, remembering names, faces. You've been before to one of the 2-day events. It's incredible the value we give. And yet this one's virtual, and we're making it where it's just so easy to join and be part of it. But what I do is I give free, and then occasionally I give people a different offer to reach out to. The inner circle is a little bit more pricey, right? One-on-one coaching, I only do like 7 people a year. That's all I will do that. So this gives a way for people to interact with me. And some people, I was on a call with 1,000 people yesterday from the country of Mauritius. And I mentioned, listen, I got podcasts, they're free. I got blogs, they're free. Not everyone can necessarily afford to go to an event. So you put the stuff out there, it's free. And then occasionally you have the next level that people can participate with you. And sure enough, if someone comes and spends a couple of days with Ron and I, and they like what they're hearing and they see the quality of people we have, because I have some amazing guests. You'll be sharing, 7-time Emmy winner, Nui Scruggs, 31-year Colonel of the Marines who ran a presidential inauguration, Tim Cole. I mean, the list goes on of some guests that will pop on. Someone might say, hey, I'm interested in being part of Kyle's Inner Circle. Well, now we've already got to spend 2 days together. They It's not like this big leap of faith of what's Kyle all about? Does he resonate with me? Now, at the same time, someone might say, wow, what he's selling, I ain't buying, or, what he's drinking, I don't care for. And that's great too, because I'm not for everyone. What I do is not for everyone. And maybe they're not for me and the group. And, the best way to figure that out is to spend time together and say, wow, this is my tribe, like Mike Muni said, or no, this really, I'm looking for something different. But I will say this. I think the defining moment, the defining thing of what I do, and I've been doing it for 30 years, is it's about principle-based marketing. And I talk about tactics, and tactics are social media and email and podcast and direct mail and, blogs and selling and websites, all that. And I do all that. You don't build a 1 million+ list if you don't do that. You don't go fill up huge rooms if you don't do that. But even more important than tactics are principles. And so I talk about, how to build the right kind of company, have the right kind of product. I am a little bit offended's not the right word, just maybe disgusted's the right word, with a lot of the get rich quick, people selling the dream. That stuff usually doesn't work out long term. That sometimes people go spend a lot of money for something that's supposed to solve an immediate problem. And it's not even the money they spent that's the biggest expense. It's the wrong road they took for 1.5 years. And the best people I have that come into my world have already failed 5 times trying to do the quick fix. And they already know that doesn't work. And now they say, okay, let's do it the right way. And I feel like with Jim Rohn International, my business grew, everything I do pretty much has this, compounding effect. Well, that's built intentionally. And to do the right things, you have to say no to a lot of other things. And it's very, very, very noisy out there. And so you have to really get clear about, what you're about, what works, what doesn't work, what your litmus test is on ethical marketing and the things you're comfortable about. And a lot of times that's, if you're not comfortable when someone else does it to you, you shouldn't be doing it out in the marketplace, right? So you got to get a feel for what your comfort level is. And you mentioned the wheel, and the wheel is kind of the thing in 1993 I created. And it's, it's focused on the different spokes on the wheel, and you get people on the wheel and take them around it. Each spoke is a product or service or customer acquisition. And there's 4 key things to decide what each spoke should be or not be. And it gets down to, being part of your core business, understanding your secret sauce, understanding what you're about, what your goals are. It's about making sure everything you do is strategic. Will it knock down the dominoes? Things that are one-offs that don't actually have the potential to have much greater impact on everything else you do. Usually, that's you're wasting time and effort and energy in place of the one thing that could knock down all the dominoes. And I have multiple examples of that, multiple things I share that literally were pivotable. They were worth millions of dollars, and they knocked down all the dominoes. And I'll talk about the thought behind that, dissect, how I came up with that. And then, knowing you're talking to the right avatar, all these things, right? So a lot of things. And I got to confess, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a trainer. I'm an entrepreneur that's done this stuff. And I just share from what I've done. And I'm not talking about anything I'm not actively doing now and that I'm not working with other people doing.
I have to say, though, I disagree on the teacher part. You teach very well. You explain very well. And you do a good job that's easy for us to visualize and implement. And one of the things that I've also appreciated is you've mentioned and you've taught me is test things out.
Yes.
If you have this idea, go try it out and see what your response is. And that's very encouraging, because so many times, at least when I was growing up, it's don't you dare make a mistake. You do it right the first time, perfect. And it's nice to take a deep breath and relax, and it's okay to be try things out. If it doesn't work out, it's a learning experience. And you hear, oh, mistakes are learning, but it truly is a learning experience. And it's not really a mistake. It's just, it's a test. The test gave us information, and it just says, okay, time to veer to another path.
Yeah, it saves fortunes of time and money and effort. I've seen too many times, and I've been guilty myself. People go to a lot of effort to build something that's the wrong thing. And the other thing is, whether it's a course, whether it's an event, whether it's a podcast, whatever it is, it's going to be 3 to 5 to 10 times more work, more effort, more expense than you think it is. There are people with agendas trying to sell you to do courses and podcasts and events. And so I've created this little formula. It's pretty simple. I got a lot of social proof stories I'll share, people you would have heard of, and I'll walk you through the test cases of them testing small. And it's a little formula I've put together. And I just had Seth Mosley, 3-time Grammy winner, on my podcast, and he's a phenomenal example of someone that had an idea for an online song course, and how I took him through these 4 things of how to test an idea. And sometimes you test, you find out it doesn't work, but other times you test, you go, oh my God, this is going to be big, right? And then you can pour gasoline on it, right? There's Facebook ads is not a great way to test something in the beginning, because you don't even know if it's going to be good for your core audience. So I have a way that you begin with your inner circle to test ideas, and then you take it out a little broader. But then if it works for this group, and it works for this group, and it works for this group, then you can go to advertising model. Because if you're going to advertise, it's got to be good. You can't just throw something up and expect it to do well. You got to give it your best shot. Well, to give it your best shot, and to kind of, go through all those little details that matter, you need to know that you have a winner on your hands. And so thank you about bringing up testing. It's huge.
Yeah. And one other thing I do want to mention that you've had a lot of success in, and it's been phenomenal to be a part of, is your books. So this is another avenue you have. And one thing that was dear to me is what you do with the proceeds of the books, which made it just even more special to be a part of. So can you share a little bit about your book projects and what you do with the proceeds? Because I think it's something that really touches the heart of a lot of people.
Yeah, well, for me, I sold my companies in late 2007, and I had, over a long period of time, you get to do some stuff, right? I sold millions of books. And so I have these different playbooks, if you will. And back about 4 years ago, Erica Dela Cruz, who's part of the Inner Circle in California, I saw this actress that was, hustling and had a great philosophy. And I'd introduced her to Lisa Haitian. Lisa had a big benefit, and Erica agreed to do some of the interviews on the red carpet. And it cost money, and she wasn't making any money, and yet she did it all for free, and she's doing trades. And I just saw the hustle and philosophy. So I said, listen, I got an idea of how you can actually get people to come to you, right? Instead of out hunting, instead of out getting in long lines to be one of 1,000 other people interviewing for commercials and shows, how you can get people to come to you. And it's the difference between hunting and fishing. And so I said, there's a book idea. I haven't done it in a while, but I think it'd work. And so we ended up doing a book called Passionistas. And it was focused on millennial women, mostly 40 women, mostly East Coast, West Coast, fashion, entertainment, but a variety of women. And I didn't make any money on that book, but I got to really watch teaching the women marketing, teaching the women how to use the book to get on podcasts, how to use a book to get speaking, how to use the book to get publicity, how to use a book as a business card. So I said, wow, it's not going to work if they have to pay $10 a book. How can they be in the book, be on the cover, and actually buy additional books for $2 each? So I started kind of playing with the idea, and I ended up doing 2 more like that for Inner Circle members, where I did not make any money. I really did not, but it was a passion project. And I said, okay, I see people paying $10, $15, $20,000 to get a book published, and they're not hitting number one. They have no celebrity authorities in the book. They're having to pay editors, sometimes ghostwriters. They're not learning anything. They're not learning to peel the onion. They're not learning to tell their story. They're not learning how to market, right? I used books as huge leverage opportunities to build lists and to be a business card and to build credibility. So I created this 15-point list of benefits I could give. And I only went to my inner circle members. I didn't even make it public. I just went to the people I coach, inner circle members, Tom Burns, Dana Samuelson, Robert Helm, Seth Mosley, Dave Zook, Michael Blank, Marco Santarelli, the list goes on and on, right? And we did a book called The One Thing That Changed Everything. And it went really well. Huge number one, hit number one in over 10 categories. And I would do 6 marketing calls with the group. And now I'm teaching one to many, and that works, right? That's not a lot of my time, but I share everything about how to build a list, how to build an audience, how to leverage a book for a coaching program or to get on podcasts, the whole thing, over 15 things. I have the best editor, the best coach, Dakar Sites, that came from the Passionista book. So they have a coach now, they have an editor. We go hit number one. We have celebrity authorities. Every book, I have about 5 celebrity authorities in the book. So this next book is called Success Habits of Superachievers. It's from my podcast. So we have Darren Hardy, Brian Tracy, Mark Victor Hansen, Les Brown, the whole, 25 celebrity authorities. And then the rest are entrepreneurs that are part of the book. And it's that same formula. Plus I interview them too. And you're right. When we do the big launch, we pick a charity to give the money to. And a couple of great things that happen. One is we get to promote the charity, right? So we're now, because we have launch partners and we got 40 people part of the book, everyone, hundreds of thousands of impressions are going out in the world promoting that particular charity. And then second of all the revenue that comes from it, we donate, all the sales through Amazon, we donate to that charity. So I've done multiple charities. My criteria is, in a perfect world, I want a grassroots charity that doesn't have a lot of outside expense, that typically has an army of people inside the charity that there's like Share the Hope is a great example. Nathan Ogden, who was in the Resilience book, Nathan Ogden is quadriplegic, and amazing story. He's been to the inner circle in LA and just had so much incredible stuff to share. Amazing human being. And this is his own charity. And they go to third world countries, him and a team of people, and they give away wheelchairs. And it's so inspiring. And I've talked to Nathan, and he is so about this charity. So we donated all the proceeds to that charity, and 2 great things happen. First, the money helps buy wheelchairs, but second of all, it also is a charity that this volunteer army goes, and it impacts their life too, right? You can't go out and give without impacting your life. I did one charity where we wrote a check, we handed it off, and that was it. And I'm like, I'll never do that again. Every charity, I want it to go to an army of volunteers that will also, there's kind of that give and take that happens.
Yeah. It's wonderful. And I was part of your Don't Quit book, Stories of Persistence, Faith, and Courage. And it was great. And I had people reach out to me after reading my story or other people's stories in that book. And they're like, I want to learn more, or I just want to be able to connect with you and just talk. Let's just meet up for happy hour and just spend some time talking. And I think when people are that vulnerable and sharing something about them to get them to that next level, so many readers can relate to that and say, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this world, in this journey I'm going through. And so it's great that your books provide that for so many people and share.
I'm glad you said that, Amy, because it really is a coming out party for the authors, right? We're all nervous about putting ourselves out there. The stories, we do teach you to be vulnerable, to really connect, to be honest. I felt like the Passionista book was a book of just people telling secrets. I mean, they got so raw and vulnerable, but that's what makes it powerful, right? And the same thing with the Don't Quit book that you were part of. And Robert Alt, the founder of Olay Music, billion-dollar company, signed Taylor Swift. He was one of the celebrity authorities in the book. But that authenticity does connect with people. And I have two things. I've heard so many stories of people coming out of the woodwork to connect with people that have been in the book. You know, people from high school, old teachers, old friends, old business associates will come out and congratulate you because you hit number one. So we do go out and announce, you know, the book and the promotion and the charities. But then it's a great PR opportunity, but then they really connect with the story. But the second part is this coming out party. And what I have watched is people that diminish their story, diminish their gifts. They're a little bit shy about putting their true story out. And then on the other side, when people respond, Amy, thank you for sharing that. That helped me so much. I didn't know that. Now I'm inspired to do this, my business. That becomes powerful. And then you're empowered to say, okay, I need to tell my story more. And I have so many of those stories. I have the before and after of people that diminish their story to now they're owning their story and what that's led to. Doing events, doing coaching, doing speaking, writing more books, going and doing Facebook Lives like yourself, right? So it's a powerful process. And it's something I am so committed to because I have people, that have told me, six-figure powerful stories. And then I've had people that were in the book that did nothing, like nothing. They didn't jump on any of the calls. They didn't participate in the launch. And at the end of the day, they still have a book. They still have a story. They still have, this gift they can give. People are still reading their story. So I know at the end of the day, there's such a tangible handoff back to the people in the book of value, whether they participated at 1 or they participated at 10. So it's something I feel really good about.
Yeah. And it's just learning this whole process. I mean, so many people say they want to write a book, but they don't even know how to go through the process. I know I'm in the middle of writing my own book, and I'm very glad I was part of yours first and could do a chapter in it and see the whole process. And I'm learning. It takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication and effort. But when you have a team like you set up, it makes it easier. You don't have those of us who are the authors didn't have as much stress as you guys because we could just take a portion and just focus and really focus on our content where you took care of the other nitty gritty, but we're learning in the process. And it helps that transition and to kind of get us to that next level. So I appreciate it.
I'm glad you said that because again, people come say, I want to write a book. And this happened with Robert Alt, founder of Olay Music. Someone connected him with me. We had common friends, and Andrew Lanoy connected us. And I was there. I would have helped Robert however you wanted. But you start asking the tough questions, and they don't realize this is going to take 4 years is the typical amount of time to actually. The worst thing you can do is write a book and it not be good. Let me just be clear on that. Whoever says just put it out there, I'm sorry, that's not true. It's too much work, too much time, too much effort for it to be subpar. Don't do that. That'd be like saying make a below average movie. No, make it, if you're going to do it, make it great. And that's always kind of been my philosophy. It's too much effort. So it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot more money, a lot more effort. We'll test the waters with one chapter instead of a whole book. And we'll actually give you a coach. We'll give you videos inside the Facebook group because I did Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneur Soul. We talk about the most important things. How do you connect? But then how do you become strategic? You'll be in this book forever. It's evergreen, right? With these other authorities, you'll learn the #1 bestseller process. You'll learn about marketing. And all you got to do is write a chapter. And overwhelmingly, those people, Robert was one of them, will come back and say, oh my God, why would I ever do a book? It's so, it's like, it was so much work just to do one chapter and you made it easy for us. So thank you for giving me, 90% of the benefit, fraction of the cost fraction of the time. And I do have some other people that were pretty confident their book would be out within 3 months of our book coming out. You know, they were in the books. 3 months later, their book's going to come out. And 2 years later, it still hadn't, because it is a lot of effort and work. And so it's a great way to test the waters, but also to learn. You know, again, hands down, all the people that said, I'm so glad I did yours first, because now I just learned a ton without having to take a course. I actually get to be part of an amazing book with Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner, and Todd Stoudemire, you know, 15-year Major League Baseball player, or Lisa, or Robert Helms, the different people we have in the books.
Yeah.
And Amy, I didn't know you were going to ask me about books, and I didn't know you were going to ask me about any of this. So guys, whoever's watching this, this was not an intended commercial, but she's been part of the books, part of the inner circle. So I know you're asking authentically, but not trying to sell anyone. It's just, you're asking, so I'm sharing.
Yeah, and I asked because I've done so many things new in the past year and a half. So a lot of my audience is like, Amy, what the hell happened to you? Where you've changed from being out in nature and photography and not us hearing about anything you do in terms of work to boom, all of a sudden you're doing this entrepreneur stuff, you're a part of these things. And I've had a lot of people are like, this is so cool. Like how are you doing that? And I have to attribute it to you. And I say great things about you because they're true and because you've shown me these ways that other people can do too. And this is what I talk about in my presentations is I help people change how their body feels. And I teach them new tools to control their body. The reason why they can change is because they were exposed to me and the tools that I can teach them. It's the same thing that's happened with me and you. Is you've exposed me to things that you have taught people or you've had success with, and I have to absorb it and I have to take it and learn how to apply it. And it's the same thing as who can we get exposed to that helps us on a new path in life? And you've done that for me. So I wanted to share all those things because
thank you. It
might lead to a lot of these listeners experiencing that and maybe joining on the path with me or you or anything like that. So I just appreciate that.
Love it. Thank you.
So one last thing I do want to cover is next week, and I do have to talk about that a little bit because I got to meet Ron White last August by joining this event, this memory and marketing event. And you cover so much material, and a lot of us who are under so much stress right now with this pandemic, sometimes we're not focusing so well. We're not remembering things. There might be some monotony in the days, one after another. So a lot of times I hear the phrase, I've used it myself, oh, I have horrible memory. Well, Ron has a different perspective and he can help us with all that. So can you tell us just a little bit about Ron and kind of the event next weekend if people are interested in more detail of what you told us today and some of Ron's stuff? Can you just share with that?
Yeah, so met Ron in 2002. He had a memory program and I had a huge, audience. And I started selling his program pretty robustly. And then I started booking him and I became his agent and manager. And we worked together multiple years, ended up selling my companies. And when I came back out of retirement and started my mastermind and started doing the books, I said, I'd like to do one event a year, just kind of as an outlier. And similar to the books we mentioned, I just feel like Ron has so much value to give, and he does this 2-day event, but he only does it in half-day chunks because he doesn't want to overwhelm your brain, and he teaches people how to remember names, faces, speeches. If you have kids there, the capitals of every state. He's memorized the Constitution, all kinds of things, right? And it's so powerful, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I said, listen, how about you do the first half of each day and then I'll do the second half on marketing. And we both agreed we'll only do this with each other. He doesn't do this with anyone else. It's a pay cut for him. He gets paid a lot of money to go, speak for companies for 2 hours, get paid $12,000, $15,000 to go speak for an hour to 2 hours to do this, equivalent of a full day of everything he knows is a lot of hard work. And same thing for me, what the amount of intellectual property I give away by taking, 2 half days and sharing everything I know, similar, but it's something we love doing. We have the best time. We only do it once a year, and we've been doing it in Dallas, Los Angeles. We've done them in Scottsdale. We had never done one on the East Coast. So this year I said, let's do one in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, because I have a inner circle there that we, Boston, New York, Washington. And we had it all set to go in April. And of course, this virus forced us to push it to August. Well, then, it's hard working with the hotel right now on the East Coast. And we said, let's just take it virtual. And so when we took it virtual, it now opens it up to the whole world. We have people signed up from all over the world. And we have it, it's only $297. Well, it's actually $397 on the website. I'm going to give people, your audience today, a coupon. So it's only $297. And we're not holding back. He literally doesn't have any additional memory stuff to sell you. I don't have any additional marketing stuff. I mean, I have my inner circle, I have my books, but there are no other, get the platinum marketing program. I give it all away in this. So it's that, plus we have a bunch of bonuses that we give away. So if they're interested, they can go to kylewilsonevents.com. That coupon is just simply, when you click to order the $397 on the shopping cart, put in memory, and it'll give you $100 off. I created that for you today. And, Ron, I could go on and on about Ron. He's been on Stan Lee's Brain Games. He's been on Superhumans. He's been on Martha Stewart, Dr. Oz, the whole thing. But he does this Afghanistan memory wall, which is incredible. I could go on, but if I had to simplify, our brains are powerful, right? We have millions of things floating around, right? If you thought to when you're 11 years old, and started just keep focusing in, there's just so many things, businesses we've had, jobs we've had, there's people we've met, and someone will pop on Facebook, and it's like, oh, I forgot about that person. I met them 10 years ago. We have millions of things. The problem is we don't have access to it, in an organized way. And it's like, if you run into someone, you don't see their name on Facebook, right? We see their name, it's easy. But if you ran into them on the street, you kind of recognize them, but you don't remember their name, right? And you'll remember it 2 days later. And he talks about, like, if you had all these little stickies, millions of stickies all over the floor, you're trying to find it, you don't know where to find it. So he gives you a system, these file cabinets in the system, to memorize every person you meet, their name, their face, to memorize a speech. I use his system for my speeches, to memorize notes in a book. And he can take someone, and in 15 minutes, they'll know every president by like if it was number 24. Someone can tell you every president, but if you said who's the 25th president, they're gonna have to think a little bit. You can pull it right up because of the system. And he does that with countries and capitals and chemistry programs for kids. But I've had executives from Google show up for our event. We've had people that have 9-figure companies show up. We've had multi-big business leaders, iconic people show up. And the number one thing we get is, wow, I wished I would have brought my family. Wow, I wished I would have brought my whole team. And like I said, by design, we only do it once a year. Took us 18 months to do our last one because our schedules are full. This has worked out perfect. May 8th and 9th. It's our only one. And kylewilsonevents.com, and just type in memory in the coupon code and they'll get 100 off.
I really appreciate that. I know our listeners will too. So I just want to thank you for your time today. I know we went a little bit longer than expected, but I really appreciate you sharing. You've had a great impact in my life, and I just wanted to be able to share that with other people who are listening and watching. So,
well, Amy, if someone wants to get my 52 lessons, can I tell them they can go to kylewilson.com, and it's free. It's 52 lessons, kylewilson.com. And what I want to say is back to you, thank you, because I met you and didn't know that much about you. And then you did a session on me, and it really was so powerful. Then I hired you to do some more sessions. And then every inner circle, I would have you come up and lead us. And I didn't even know at the time you were a doctor. I just knew you were effective. And I didn't know you've run 100-mile marathons without pain. And I didn't know you kept people out of surgery. So it's really almost fanatical mission-like for me to get your message out to everyone I know. And I know dozens of people in the inner circle have, worked with you directly, and you've helped so many people. You've kept people out of surgery. You've helped them with their, helped them sleep better, helped them with anxiety. I practice your breathing every single morning. And every time I hear you, I learn something new, right? When I bend over, I'm supposed to breathe out. I mean, when I stand up, how I'm supposed to stand up. When I sit down, it's incredible. So it's almost to the point, if someone has a physical problem, I think, can Amy solve that? That's really my first thought. I wonder if whatever they're having, because any kind of body pain, you will help people through breathing, relax, and have things go back the way it's supposed to. So I really am so grateful for you and how much you've helped me and how much you've helped our group. You've made our group better and been a major contributor. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thank you. So thanks for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And thanks for sharing with us. And anyone else, I will make sure they get all the information so they know how to join us next weekend or get onto your list. We need to push this because many people have so much to learn. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.